second book also, I tried to write it for the college kids that hopefully someday will be studying my books, and hopefully, I say hopefully, because I wanted to show that there was a darker side to my writing style, and that's what the second book is about. It's just intended to be a little bit darker than the first book, and it has a lot of introspection of somebody trying to cope with an environment that they really don't belong in. And so, there's always the question, is that just how you adapt to the environment by becoming a part of it? And maybe that's what I was trying to do.
Well,
but it's not for me to say. I'm not a psychologist. You maybe ask the guy on the panel show.
You're right. The second book is darker, but it still has humor. And I'll go back to the New Zealand gal. I mean, you must have been devastated.
No, as I point out in the book, they were very large knickers. I could have worn them as a tank top. So no, I was not. What I was looking for was I was really my relationship with my Indian girlfriend had ended, and I really just wanted somebody who didn't hate Americans, and I found and she actually was from South Africa. And being from South Africa, they have a kind of a beef with the British, and everybody I taught with was either British or Scottish, or I'm sorry if British and Scottish, I always get that wrong, but I found kind of an alliance with her, and so I wasn't really trying to get into her knickers, and I did appreciate her pointing that out from the beginning, and but I just was looking for an ally, and she, was not really an ally at all.
Okay, here is the $64,000 question. If you had your time over, would you have packed your bags and gone to Oman and then Saudi afterwards, or would you have stayed in rainy Seattle and coached kids to pass tests?
I have to say unequivocally, yes, I would have done it all over again. I would not. I tell you, there's something wrong with me, and my mother has had to put up with it all of her life. Is that I'm never really satisfied with where I'm at, and from the time I finished high school, I went into the Army. I was down in the East Coast at Fort Bragg, or I was in Panama, or I was in the Middle East, or I lived in Alaska for years. I went to college on the eastern side of Washington State, and so I always have to be traveling. And so if it hadn't have been Oman, then or Oman or the Middle East, probably would have been somewhere else. But from the time that I had been in the Army, I had always been interested in going back to the Middle East, and so the September 11th just allowed me. And let me just also say that when I was in the Army, the idea of teaching was actually put into my head by some British guys from a company that were working on our air conditioners, and they gave me this whole idea that you can go to the Middle East and make a lot of money teaching. And ultimately, it took me, 10 years of putting in my time in places like sewer, but I did finally get a very large military contract, which is what I had been planning to do ever since I had started in college. So everything actually worked out for me, and now that I've been able to write my books, it's like my whole life, because I've always wanted to be a writer, as well. It's like my whole life has just seemed to have somehow I've stumbled into having it work out for me.
And that's absolutely wonderful. You know, there are not many people that can say that. If you were talking to someone coming out of college with a bachelor's of education or English or history, would you recommend the life of the life that you took?
No, I wouldn't, because nobody is even half as crazy as I am. I don't think anybody would go or should go, I think, to do the things that I had done. As I said in the beginning, I spent 4 years as a paratrooper in the 82nd Airborne, and so I know how to assess situations, and I know it's dangerous. And I can handle myself in situations, and I know how to get out of them. But I'm not so sure somebody that's just coming out of college, because of just the way they look and they act, that they're going to have the same experiences. And you have to remember, I'm trained to live off the land and survive behind enemy lines and all of that stuff. So I can, and that I guess that is evidence when I got to Oman and nobody was there to pick me up, and I drove 200 miles in a rental car in the middle of the night, just because I thought that was the safest thing, the safest course of action to do. Would I recommend it to people? I don't recommend it to anybody, but I will say this, that it really it helped me as a person. It helped me professionally. And if I ever went back into teaching, or even, as far as my writing goes, it really, I don't want to say it made me smarter, but it really focused me. And it really allowed me to live in an outside environment with a different kind of people that were very difficult to teach, and I mastered that. So there is no teaching situation that I would be in now where I would ever feel even uncomfortable. So if you're so again, that's all I would say. I would say that for me, it really worked out well for me. Is that going to work for you? I really don't know. It depends on you.
Well, one of the things that absolutely amazed me is I've met a lot of people that, while they haven't been teachers, have worked in far-flung parts of the world, and generally they have bad recollections, of being stuck in a compound, but that never seemed to bother you too much. I'm not even sure you had a tent at the beginning. You certainly didn't have a car, but you were bound and determined to explore the land. That impressed me a great deal. Was that your idea? I'm going to go to Oman, and I'm going to find everything there is to find, or were you more, now I'm going to sit in the compound with my compatriots and eke out my existence?
Well, I first of all did not know anything about Oman before I got there, and I'll answer your question in a second. The only thing I did know was I looked at Lonely Planet, And in the Lonely Planet picture, there is a picture of what I now know is the lighthouse at Elijah, which is the town across this inlet from the town of Sur. And other than seeing that little picture of a Muslim architecture style lighthouse and some turquoise blue water, I knew nothing about it except the person who interviewed me told me that he was Australian, and he told me that they play volleyball on the beach and they have barbecues and all that. And he told me they wore shorts to work, shorts in the Middle East, and I believed everything he said. And so when I got there, I looked at the staff, and I talk about this in the first chapter of the book, is that they didn't seem to be the types that did barbecues or played volleyball on the beach, but there was a beautiful beach there. And let me just answer your question by saying in the first chapter of the book, I talk about leaving the airport, driving with a companion to the town of Sur, who there's an interesting story as to how the companion got there. And when I got to Sur, it was about 6 o'clock in the morning, 5:30 in the morning, and the sun was just coming up, and I looked at a town, and I had come from the Pacific Northwest where it was raining, trees everywhere, and, of course, we have the water, the ocean, and I looked at a barren landscape with all of these beautiful Middle Eastern-style architecture buildings, and I could smell the sea. And when I drove, I'm driving in this little town looking for the college, and I see the sea, and it's turquoise blue. There's not a cloud in the sky. The temperature's perfect, and I'm going right on. I landed in the right place. So that, to answer your question, when I looked around, there were these huge mountains behind, and I started to talk to people about what was out there, and the more I heard, the more I had to see.
Oh, okay. One last question, and I swear I'll leave you in peace. Where can people find your books?
On Amazon, they can find them on iBooks, Kindle, Kobo, Nook. They're pretty much everywhere. I sell them also on my website, and if you're listening, you can look at my website. It's HeinessIGHT.com, hindsight.com. I sell my books off of there, and you can also look inside of the books. I have widgets where you can see the first few chapters.
And okay, I was telling lies. What's your next project?
My next project, I am looking. Well, I have to put my year, or another year in Oman is right now locked up on Amazon because it's given away on Christmas Eve, Christmas, and on New Year's Eve. So Christmas Eve, Christmas, New Year's Eve are free giveaways for another year in Oman. Once that's done, I'm going to put that book on Kobo and on iBooks as well. And what I'm going to do then with all my Oman books and my Saudi book too is I'll have maps, widgets, and all this good stuff. And I'm going to start posting videos from Oman on my YouTube channel. So for the next few weeks, I'll be adding things there. And after that, we'll see. Maybe another writing project.
Okay, YouTube channel. If someone wants to go to YouTube, where can they find you?
They can go to my website, and there's a YouTube page on there, or they can just go to Matthew Heines. I'll just spell out, no space, just Matthew Heines on YouTube, and they'll go to my channel.
Matthew, I'm looking at the clock, and the producer is whining in my ear. So time for us to wrap this up. It has been truly delightful to talk to you about your books. and there's one more, but I'll wait until I've read it before I give you the third degree.
Well, after you've read it, I'll know it because your hair will be standing straight up.
Do you have any parting thoughts for us today?
Yeah, I want to wish everybody Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy Hanukkah, whatever it is you do. Enjoy. Let's have some peace in the world. Let's stop being so violent, and let's love each other and try to be happy.
Matthew, it's been wonderful. I'm sure we'll talk again soon. I think I have you labeled as the victim on Sunday, but that's a completely different story. Until then, this is Simon Barret wishing everyone a happy, healthy, and safe day. We'll be back soon. Till next time, goodbye.